Thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.
Should athletes ever be allowed to dope in athletics? Do some of the most notorious sportsmen of our time have come under fire for doping? Some think it is time to open the floodgates. Aaron De Souza, founder of the Enhanced Games, has done just that.
If they put up $1 million, I'll come on board as their first athlete. I'll juice to the gills and I'll break it within 6 months.
Oh! The Enhanced Games is an alternative to the corrupt and dysfunctional Olympic Games, and it's the first international sports event without drug testing.
To many, the Olympics represent the peak of human athletic performance. As it currently stands, drugs are prohibited at the Games because of their capacity to enhance said performance. But with Olympic gold on the line, it's no surprise when an athlete looks for a pharmaceutical edge, off the books of course, to gain an advantage in competition. And whenever a doping scandal pops up, it calls the credibility of the International Olympic Committee into question, as part of their job is ensuring a level playing field among competitors. Meet Dr. Aaron De Souza, who claims that the Olympic Games aren't as drug-free as many would claim them to be. Dun, 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 dun. De Souza has called the Olympics out for corruption and lack of transparency, citing a 2011 WADA Commission study that claims 43.6% of WADA-compliant elite athletes had used banned supplements in the past year, commenting that doping appears remarkably widespread among elite athletes. As such, De Souza, alongside investor Christian Angermeyer, has decided to establish a PED-friendly sporting competition called the Enhanced Games, where athletes can compete totally juiced to the gills, bro. In their words, the Olympics of the future on a mission to build a new superhumanity.
Because science is real, Piers. Medicine is real. Technology is here.
So it's cheating.
It's not cheating at all. We're creating a level, open playing field.
We're building the Apollo mission for the 21st century. It showed us that we were so much more capable as a human species, using science and technology to overcome our limits.
You're not going to the moon. Let's be serious.
You're just getting a bunch of guys juiced up, running really fast.
According to De Souza, embracing modern science and technology will showcase the real potential of humanity and allow us to push beyond our limits. He claims it will level the playing field and foster a more equitable sporting landscape free from cheating. Well, if you're thinking this sounds dangerous, you're not the only one.
My head tells me that it's completely unsafe, and I think people will abuse it and people die from taking drugs on a daily basis. And I just think, where does it go?
Nevertheless, De Souza emphasizes that athlete safety is of utmost importance, prioritizing so-called health assessments to ensure athletes are fit to compete over traditional drug testing measures like those used at the Olympics. Don't worry. We'll compare these testing methods directly a little later on. De Souza acknowledges that he may be adding to the inherent risk associated with the sport, but argues that any potential risks are justified in the pursuit of this innovative sports paradigm. We'll see about that.
The people who succeed in life, the people who push society to a new level, are willing to take positive risk.
Ultimately, De Souza argues for informed consent, asserting that adults should have the autonomy to make decisions about their bodies without stigma, creating a space where they can celebrate this freedom. He believes that data gathered from this exploration will expand our understanding of the potential of these drugs. However, from my medical perspective, informed consent also entails educating the public about the physiological effects and risks of PEDs, while critically evaluating De Souza's assertions and plans.
Are you concerned at all, Aaron, that this sends the wrong message?
No.
Interns, I'm Dr. Chris Raynor, orthopedic surgeon, and join me while we learn a thing or two about human anatomy along the way. Interns, buckle up. Despite advertising himself as Dr. De Souza and his seeming interest in the health of Enhanced Games athletes, it's noteworthy that he is a doctor of law. Many associate the title doctor with a profound responsibility towards people's health, and this responsibility is not one that I take lightly. I can't say for sure that De Souza is leveraging this association to his benefit, or worse, financial gain, but his claims about health, safety, and bodily autonomy seem to hold more sway with that doctor prefix so boldly displayed before his name. What do you think? When you hear a doctor making claims about health, Do you assume a medical doctor? Does it matter to you that Souza isn't an MD? Would you simply prefer to be entertained by physical specimens winning medals and not worry about the quote-unquote details? Maybe once we examine how PEDs affect athletic performance and the health implications of an enhanced games, you'll feel more qualified to voice your opinion in the comments below. As a precursor to our discussion of PEDs, I want to quickly talk about the main challenges an Olympic athlete faces. First of all, there is a lot of hard work involved in professional athletics.
We know that if we want to compete really well come the summer, then we have to train really hard in the winter. And when we do get to training, it's 100% commitment.
Even athletes with the most incredible genetic advantages, height, body type, strength, fast or slow twitch muscle fibers, etc., will be outperformed by a less genetically gifted athlete with Olympic level dedication. As former Olympian and now coach Jim Okowitz states in a Forbes article, people don't know the process which athletes undertake in their individual sports to reach the Olympic level. You get there by sticking it out. There are a lot of people that try and give up. Of course, as many of the sensations felt during physical exercise reflect the body's response to stress. You know, increased heart rate and blood pressure, rapid breathing, muscle fatigue and tension, even discomfort and pain. And while many of these sensations do improve with regular training, any expanded capacity will allow an Olympian to push themselves even harder. The physical grind is very real. My athlete interns will know, striving to expand your limits every damn day is no walk in the park.
You definitely have times where you kind of question the sacrifices, you know, your friends doing this, doing that, then you kind of realize your goals are reachable.
Not to mention the mental challenges associated with focusing on the smallest details of their event day in and day out. As Olympian Ryan Murphy explains in this Men's Health video, these races often come down to shaving fractions of a second off their time.
It's about my catch angle, it's about making sure I'm in the best physical shape I can be, my core, my back, my glutes, my hip flexors. I've always got like 10 things in my head that I'm focusing on in a practice.
Even on off days, an Olympian must stay focused just on recovery. Diet, nutrition, adequate sleep, soft tissue repair, the list goes on. Anything you can do to ensure your body is ready to train hard again tomorrow.
That's really challenging is figuring out how do I stay dialed in 24/7.
Now, if the main benefits of steroids include enhanced muscle growth and strength, improved recovery, and increased endurance, we have athletes that can train longer, harder, return to training quicker, and who will see increased results from said training. We can all see the appeal in a drug that enables an athlete to do more of what they need to do it better, and for a higher return on investment. But you weren't born yesterday.
They see you run and they say, oh, it looks so easy. Before it gets to that point, it's hard. It's like hard work, day in, day out, sacrifice.
Why are you taking it?
Because it's outsourced discipline. That's it. Yeah.
As we are considering the future of the Olympics, enhanced athletes, and augmentations of the future, it is important for us to have an understanding of scientific ideas and technologies of the future. There is no place better to explore the concepts than from the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online service dedicated to teaching you about science, technology, engineering, and math in a fun, engaging, and interactive manner, and it is one of the best places in which to do so. Consider, for example, their science lesson program. Starting first with their foundational scientific thinking, you'll next learn about chemical reactions and physics of the everyday. Next, you'll learn about more advanced topics, such as special relativity and quantum mechanics. At the very highest level, you'll learn about quantum computing and computational biology, where you will tackle intriguing problems like RNA folding and genomic reconstruction. If it is indeed possible for athletes to edit their genomes to allow them to improve their athletic performance, this is where you will learn how it's done. You can start your education journey right now. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for a full 30 days at no cost, visit brilliant.org/Dr. Chris Raynor or click on the link in the description. And while taking PEDs doesn't automatically make you a world-class athlete, it could turn on the turbo boosters for those already headed in that direction. You see, steroids are synthetic versions of the natural testosterone, which drives the development of secondary male sex characteristics. Anabolic literally refers to muscle building. As explained by Charles Yasalis, Penn State professor of exercise and sports science, anabolic steroids essentially induce a second adolescence. Many of the same things happen as would in puberty, and as the testosterone increases, so does strength and muscle mass.
My body, my choice. Your body, your choice.
While many sports require strength, these crowd favorites are largely endurance-based. Though steroids aren't typically associated with endurance, they can help lessen muscle fatigue and aid in muscle repair, increasing the frequency and intensity of workouts. Increasing muscle can also indirectly support speed because it gives you more power and explosiveness in your stride. As you can see, the use of steroids and other PEDs can provide an unfair advantage in sports competitions. But to what end? Here's where the Souza and Angermeyer's concept begins to run into some difficulty. An athlete's response to performance-enhancing drugs depends on several factors, not the least of which is how much they take. PEDs can have compounding effects where increased doses or prolonged use can lead to more pronounced effects, a phenomenon known as the dose-response relationship. You can think of this relationship like a bell curve. As the dose increases, the effect increases, but only to a point. Beyond that point, the effect may plateau or even decrease. The optimal dose varies depending on the desired outcome, muscle mass, strength, or endurance, and individual factors, age, genetics, body composition, etc. This is why bodybuilders experiment with stacking, combining several different types of steroids and dosages to optimize their effects and account for genetic variants, while minimizing the risks. We've covered the dangers of steroid abuse many times on this channel in the past, but suffice it to say that in open bodybuilding, where PEDs are an accepted part of competition, they significantly detract from the health of the competitors. You need only type recent bodybuilding deaths into Google for proof. We're talking about introducing a new and very dangerous envelope for Olympic athletes to push. Only this envelope has potentially life-threatening consequences, and in many cases, taking more of it does equate to better performance. What worries me most is that Olympic athletes, as we've previously established, are willing to go to extreme lengths to beat their competition. If enhanced games has sufficient buy-in from competitors, what's to stop them from prioritizing winning over health? What's to stop individual coaches or entire national teams from experimenting with dangerous levels of compounds on these athletes? Under these circumstances, I can imagine a future where athletics becomes less about athletic performance and more about the strategies used to experiment with these drugs. And competitors start to sound more like lab rats than actual athletes. Again, that's not to say Olympians are currently the picture of health or moderation. In fact, many of their training regimens are quite extreme, but steroids at a high stakes layer, with a dangerous downside that tends to show itself under the pressures of competition, more so than conventional training, recovery methods, or mechanical injury. We must also consider the variability in how people respond to PEDs. Derek from More Plates, More Dates explains that genetics play a crucial role.
The way your bones are structured, your muscle insertions, like there's so many elements of genetics that come into play, but one of them is definitely response to drugs.
Some individuals are hyper responders, meaning they have a genetic predisposition to PEDs, effectively getting more bang for their buck. What if the enhanced games were to become a place where hyper responders have an unfair advantage?
They're seeing all the prime examples that have the best transformations, so that's what they expect. And then when they take PEDs, they're extremely disappointed.
This may encourage other athletes with a less favorable relationship to PEDs to up their dosages or experiment more liberally and dangerously, I might add, by stacking multiple compounds. And, well, there are many compounds to choose from, nor is Wikipedia's list exhaustive by any means. Consider new steroids and performance-enhancing substances under development, including SARMs, designer steroids, peptide hormones, and even gene editing therapies or stimulants. Because if anything goes, then, well, anything goes. But before I talk about anything more experimental than steroids, there's another elephant lurking in our classroom. Not all steroids are created equal. Kill me! The efficacy of steroid compounds varies due to factors like receptor affinity, potency, half-life, metabolism, bioavailability, steroid structure, among other factors. In a pharmacology lab, many of these characteristics may be altered to optimize the effects of the compound. And those with access to better gear will have an advantage in competition. Now, the accessibility and quality of PEDs outside of competitions are heavily influenced by a country's economy and healthcare system, which varies widely. It's not as if the enhanced games is providing everyone with drugs to ensure fairness, nor are its health screening protocols going to protect you from harm during the off-season. Allowing PED use in sports does not guarantee that athletes can access or afford safe drugs in their home countries. This disparity may exacerbate systemic inequalities, where an athlete's access to PEDs could reflect their country's or the individual's wealth rather than their athletic ability. Who has the best drugs? Who has the best team of doctors? Again, distracting us from the competition or sport itself. Due to all that we've mentioned, I questioned Souza's level playing field soundbites. Surely he knows all of this. It's all publicly available information that is pretty easy to access. Now, I'd be foolish to deny that the current drug testing paradigm is flawed, and I do not intend to do so. But we need to take a serious look at how testing currently unfolds before we are to fairly critique de Souza's proposed solution. The World Doping Agency, or WADA, is a global doping organization whose primary role is to coordinate anti-doping rules across all sports and countries. Their intention is to create a clean sport, ensuring fair play amongst athletes. The list of banned substances is comprehensive. Basically, any pharmaceutical that lacks sanction from governmental health regulators, like the FDA, for human therapeutic use, which means there are a ton of compounds on that list. Everything from steroids, peptides, hormones and diuretics to blood manipulators, gene editing processes, stimulants, and narcotics. This graph provided by Statista shows that the number of Olympians per Olympics has increased dramatically over the years, with new events, new national teams competing, etc., totaling over 11,000 for the last 2 Olympics. Surely, Paris is similar. Not to mention all the Olympic hopefuls vying for a spot on their national team. How difficult do you think it would be for WADA to test 10,000 competitors from just about every corner of the world consistently during the 4 years preceding competition? Mind you, there are currently 3 types of anti-doping tests: urine, venous blood, and dried blood spot. A sample must be physically collected to ensure accuracy, then sent to a WADA-accredited laboratory to be analyzed. Top athletes better get used to having that WADA agent around. But in all seriousness, this is where de Souza's concerns about corruption really do carry some weight. In order to ensure fairness, athletes would need to be tested very often, probably on the magnitude of once every 2 to 4 weeks. Let's quickly consider a study conducted by Stefan Loch et al. For the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, where the steroid DHCMT, or oral turanabinol, 5 milligrams taken by mouth, was administered to 5 healthy male volunteers, and their urine samples were collected for a total of 60 days. It must be noted that turanabinol has a terminal half-life of 16 hours, which means the parent compound will be broken down and excreted by the kidneys within that time frame. Thankfully, steroids can be detected in urine and blood beyond their half-life due to the presence of metabolites, or a byproduct of the metabolic processes undergone by the steroid, which can be detected longer than the parent compound, and long-term storage in fatty tissues, which prolongs detection times. In the aforementioned study, the last sample clearly identified as positive was collected between 9.9 and 44.9 days, which buys our WADA agents some time. But testing 11,000 competitors once a month in person to ensure accuracy doesn't sound cheap. So, how do they do it? Well, publicly, WADA makes a show of trying, but in reality, they are forced to rely on smaller national subsidiaries, or national anti-doping organizations, to do the testing. But these NADAs have their limitations. In his 2020 article on testing frequency, Bill Cudahy highlights that limited budgets of NADA restrict the frequency of testing, resulting in fewer positive results for PEDs due to reduced testing efforts.
But different countries have different means, ability, and yes, political will to catch dopers.
Even with the NADAs doing all they can, politics can get involved. For those of you who haven't seen Icarus, it's a documentary outlining the Russian doping scandal in the Sochi Olympics in 2014. By tampering with urine samples, many enhanced Russian athletes were able to compete undetected.
Grigory Rodchenkov, head of Russia's anti-doping laboratory, turned whistleblower.
I was helping to facilitate one of the most elaborate doping ploys.
Russian politics and sports are very often enmeshed.
The video goes on to say that many Russian politicians simultaneously held positions in either the IOC itself or WADA. That is to say, some countries have strategically appointed members in certain positions to ensure their athletes go undetected. And it's not just Russia, obviously.
44% admitted to doping. But typically, only 1 to 2% of samples test positive.
7 of the top 10 fastest 100-meter runners in history have had a doping violation.
Many people around the world are doping, and the reason we as a public don't know about it is because either the athletes are just that skilled in hiding their actions, or perhaps their governing sports bodies are aware, but are unable and in some cases unwilling to do anything about it. And while this is a rabbit hole that is beyond the scope of our video, you should now have enough buzzwords to conduct your own independent research. Another critique of Souza's is that the testing, when conducted, is oppressive. As explained on the Enhanced Games website, athletes, including minors, are subjected to invasive measures such as providing blood and urine samples without notice and maintaining constant whereabouts updates. This is seen as a violation of privacy and bodily autonomy. Again, the concerns are fair, but what, realistically, is the alternative? His website has the details. The screening will involve an echocardiogram, blood tests, and genomic sequencing in order to build up a full picture of the athlete's health and allow athletes to make an informed decision about whether they are safe to compete. An echocardiogram to monitor the function of the heart and surrounding blood vessels, as well as the flow of blood through them. A good start, I suppose, as an ECG might also be useful for identifying acute events such as arrhythmia and ischemic heart disease, as well as other cardiac dysfunctions not previously noted. In this context, a quick pre-race blood test might show if an athlete's electrolytes are off or if they have any rhabdomyolysis, a condition where muscle tissue breaks down, causing muscle fibers and proteins to be released into the bloodstream, which can lead to kidney damage, electrolyte imbalances, and other complications. Beyond that, we need more detail in regards to the blood tests. It could show any number of things, some of which take a long time to process, and many of which aren't relevant to an athlete's ability to compete. Finally, I got a little bit hung up on the bit about genomic sequencing for a couple of reasons. First, I question the Enhanced Games team's ability to test many athletes on short notice. As of 2022, the Guinness World Record for the fastest DNA sequencing was completed in just 5 hours and 2 minutes. And without access to the latest technology, we're typically looking at a few days to even weeks. But even then, what valuable information will that genomic sequence provide before the competition? At the Enhanced Games, everything is allowed, including genome editing, stimulants, and whatever other compounds or procedures an athlete might ingest or undergo to boost their chance. They aren't testing for any particular compound, rather to ensure that the athlete is fit to compete. But who decides what fit to compete even means? And who ensures that the person doing the testing puts the athlete's health over the thrill of competition? What if the current world record holder is dangerously dehydrated on race day? Will they be pulled out of competition? Souza's proposed solution does not seem to be without its own limitations. And while these tests might sound reassuring in theory, they don't strike me as very discerning. However, I have a hunch that Souza's main concern could be ensuring that athletes using performance-enhancing drugs under his watch don't collapse during their events. Remember, he is a lawyer, and I'm sure he doesn't want to get sued up the yin-yang on his crusade to reinvent medicine.
Medicine is not about making just the sick people less sick. It's about improving the quality of all human life so that we can become superhuman.
And you know, something feels off about the Souza's telling us what medicine is about. Like, how does he know? Upon what experience with patients, procedures, and the healthcare system is his confidence founded? But even if firsthand experience in the medical field doesn't matter to you, does the enhanced games really sound like a medical revolution to you? When I consider the purpose of medicine and the application of medical technology, I think about healing. That is, restoring people from illness to function. At its root, a collaborative endeavor between the doctor and the patient. The enhanced games, as entertaining and as lucrative as they may prove to be, don't strike me as a medical revolution, nor an undertaking particularly concerned with the health of its participants or even humanity as a whole. My concern is that it delineates health from performance and prioritizes competition over the essence of sport. It celebrates a win by any means necessary, bro, mentality, with the primary focus on the end result. It fuels egocentric behavior. Souza mentions how it may allow scientists to gain a better understanding of the potential of these drugs. But many of these drugs are already well studied, but for therapeutic usage. He, however, wants to revolutionize medicine itself, claiming that its current mission, to heal those in need, isn't enough.
Or what is the total potentiality of the human spirit and all of humanity?
Much remains unknown about the complexities of our body and brain's natural functions.
The goal of the enhanced games is to enhance humanity.
While science and technology aid in uncovering these mysteries, relying solely on PEDs may sidestep discovering our true innate capabilities, catering instead to immediate gratification.
Aging is a disease that we should be able to treat, cure, and eventually solve.
It's important to understand that this pursuit of enhancement will extend beyond PEDs to include prosthetics, implants, and gene editing, areas where technology has already made significant strides.
An era of artificial intelligence where the machines are upgrading, we need to upgrade our own biology to be competitive. Eventually, we're going to have BCI implants in our brain. We're going to have gene editing. We're going to have the most amazing technology.
I know we may feel the pressure of technology and want to keep up with it, but our base instinct to compete with it, as we already do with each other, may not necessarily help us become the best humans we can be. Is it really about maximizing human potential if many of the compounds are exogenous?
And the same compounds that are used to make athletes run faster and jump higher are the same ones that will allow normal people like you and I to live longer, healthier, less aging lives.
And given that there is so much that we don't know about our actual biological limits, should we not explore those first before we consider other modes of augmentation? Remember, to try Brilliant free for 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Dr. Chris Raynor or click on the link in the description. You can also check out the QR code right here. There are some who agree with the Souza and who want to see what is possible when the human form is optimized and augmented without restraint. For a strength athlete's perspective on this topic, check out my conversation with retired strongman competitor Malcolm Wolf on my podcast channel. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave us a comment and give it a big thumbs up to feed the algorithm. And if you're already subscribed to the channel, make sure that YouTube didn't unsubscribe you from the channel, because sometimes that does happen. We are well on our way to 700,000 subs, so we don't want to lose any of you interns along the way. If you didn't like the video, be sure to let me know why you didn't in the comment section down below. I read all the comments that I can, and we use your feedback to make our videos better for you. And of course, don't forget to follow my gym, Human 2.0 Fitness, for free right here on YouTube, where we post content that helps you move better and prevent injury. Or Human at Home, where we talk about ways for you to function well in the space where you live. Otherwise, as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho, where we see one, do one, teach one.